For nearly 13 years, a beautiful young nurse and single mom named Kimberly Long had been steadfastly proclaiming she didn't do it. But someone brutally bludgeoned her boyfriend, Ozzy Conde, to death in what the prosecution portrayed as a bloody crime of passion. And despite being sentenced to life in prison where she languished, many were convinced Kimberly was indeed innocent.
There's absolutely no forensic evidence that points to Kim as being the killer.
I mean, if I'm on the jury, I'm thinking this is an impossibility. I mean, this is not just a reasonable doubt, this is impossible.
After failed first marriages, Kim and Ozzy, childhood sweethearts, reconnected. In an interview, Kimberly talked about their love story.
Even as kids, I thought for sure we were gonna, we'd be together.
And began building new lives together in the Los Angeles suburb of Corona. They were kind of like the Brady Bunch.
He has 3 kids, and I had 2. So I was excited. I bought an expedition, to fit everybody in, so we can all go camping together. So I was really excited. I felt good about having a big family. I was looking forward to it.
But on that fateful day of October 6, 2003, their dreams of a bright future together would explode when the couple decided to let their hair down on a drinking binge while the kids were away for the weekend.
We started about 10 o'clock that morning, I think, 10 or 11 o'clock. We were at Chuckwagon. So, I started from there.
And continued to drink on an all-day bar-hopping bender.
I had a lot.
And by the time Kimberly and Ozzy arrived at their last stop of the night, the Maverick Saloon, she was hammered and well primed for a drunken late-night lover's tiff.
We had a good time, but Ozzy thought I was being too flirtatious. I talked to a lot of different people, and so an argument ensued. So I started getting irritated at him. I felt like he ruined my time.
They left the Maverick and continued to argue in the driveway of their home.
I told him that I wanted him to leave. He wasn't gonna leave, so I left.
With a friend named Jeff Dills who had accompanied them home from the Maverick. Kimberly ended up in Dills' hot tub before he dropped her back home again in the early hours of the morning.
So I walked into the house. The first thing I saw was a big blood stain on the arm of the couch.
Then she saw Ozzy lying unconscious on the couch.
There was blood everywhere on him. So I walked up to him and I looked at him and I called his name and nothing happened. And when I was really looking at him, what I saw, I think that's when the panic hit and I just started freaking out. And I ran in the kitchen and I grabbed the phone and I called 911.
I just came home. He's bloody. I don't know what's going on. He's still breathing. He's wrong. He's blood. Where's the blood at? Oh,
And I remember taking off my jacket, and I remember reaching over and I grabbed Ozzy by his hand. Because I'd figured like something's gonna arouse him. Something will arouse him. Get him by his hand, get him to like get up. But once I did that and he lifted up, he made a noise.
Known as the death rattle.
And that's when I just started screaming and I ran outside. And at that point, every cop car, every ambulance, everything showed up right in that moment.
First responders were shocked by what they found.
It was one of the more brutal scenes that I've seen in a long time. We were pretty much struck by the amount of blood that was in this room.
And Ozzy was dead at the scene from blunt force trauma to the head.
It seemed like all of the trauma came from the side, near his ear, near the back of the head. So he could have been just resting on the couch and being struck from behind.
They literally had to put me in the back of a cop car, trying to keep me in there, just trying to keep me calm.
Police take the 27-year-old nurse and single mom, Kimberly Long, in for questioning, where she is in despair and sobbing.
It's done. It's over. It's over. My whole life is over. He was my life. He was everything to me.
She insists she didn't murder her 31-year-old boyfriend, Oswaldo Ozzy Conde.
I came home and he was dead on my couch.
Kimberly had also submitted to a lie detector test just hours after her initial police interrogation.
Did you lie to me when you said that you have no knowledge of the person or persons who killed your boyfriend?
No. I knew I didn't do anything. I mean, I had no problems taking this exam.
Probability of you being deceptive is less than 0.01%. As far as I'm concerned, this lady's telling me the truth.
But police seem convinced Kimberly is Ozzy's killer.
I had realized in that moment that they were gonna blame me for this.
Kimberly is charged with second-degree murder, despite the fact that police have no hard evidence linking her to the crime scene.
They just pointed at me.
Kimberly's first trial ends with a hung jury, but on retrial, a jury astonishingly finds her guilty. In fact, the judge publicly disagrees with the verdict.
He said that he would have found me innocent if it was a bench trial.
But by law, the judge has no choice but to sentence her to 15 years to life. Kimberly would languish behind bars for more than 7 years before her case came to the attention of the California Innocence Project, which defends those believed to have been wrongly convicted.
There's absolutely no forensic evidence that points to Kim as being the killer.
And this is not just a reasonable doubt, this is impossible.
No murder weapon has ever been found, no blood on Kimberly or her clothes, even though first responders were stunned by the amount of blood at the crime scene.
As we went in, we noticed that it was just on every surface of almost every article in the room. It was on the floors, it was on the walls, it was on the curtains.
It was impossible not to have his blood on her.
But the prosecution hung their case on the timeline evidence of Jeff Dills, who told police he had dropped Kimberly home around 1:30 a.m. on the night of the murder. But there was one major problem. Kimberly's defense team can't dispute Dills' timeline because in a tragic twist of fate, he'd been killed in a motorcycle accident before she went on trial. Then the Innocence Project's investigation finds two independent time-of-death experts who support Kimberly's account.
We have two doctors, they're medical examiners, and both of them have said that Ozzy was dead long before Kim got home.
With this new forensic evidence, a judge finally overturns Kimberly's murder conviction. Kimberly walks out of court into the waiting arms of overjoyed friends and family.
I knew I was gonna walk out. I knew it was gonna happen. I just didn't know when. I'm excited, very excited about everything.
Kimberly's new life could finally begin, starting all over again back at her parents' house.
God. That's my girl.
But the most precious gift of all for Kimberly was being reunited with her two children.
When it comes to the kids, you know, it's very emotional. You know, my kids were 5 and 10, and now they're 18 and 23.
As of now, Kimberly has moved on. There's just one issue left unsolved. Ozzy's killer has never been found. Kim says she can do nothing to change that.
Where do you begin? And it's not my job. The cops should have done their job.